Welcome to the Igniting the CEO Within podcast, where we interview successful high-level professionals to discover lessons they've learned throughout their career that can help ignite that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge, and I'll be your host for the next 15 minutes or so. Our show is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has developed Launchpad, which offers an opportunity for executive coaches to become licensed circle directors and earn annual recurring six-figure revenues. After completing the Launchpad program, you'll lead your own peer advisory circles, helping other CEOs and entrepreneurs excel in their professional and personal lives while providing a community of support, accountability, and challenge. If you'd like to learn more, go to quaidcircle.com. I am really pumped for our show today. Excited to have Joe Bohringer, CEO and principal of KJ Advisors, join us from Bend, Oregon. Joe, thanks so much for getting up with us.
I greatly appreciate the invite and look forward, hopefully, to giving some worthwhile information to listeners today.
I have no doubt you've had such an amazing background and covered a lot of ground, a lot of territory. Um, Over that time, you've had to have seen, some really excellent leaders and some not so excellent leaders. And if you could start to nail it down on what are one or two traits that you think separates that super high level, that super excellent leader from the average or even below average, what have you seen?
Yeah, great question, and I think a lot of it is, and I'll kind of go with the buzzwords are usually correct. It can be servant leadership, it can be empowering your people, it can be making sure that you delegate the right way. Every leader is a different combination of those things, and it's really coming up with the individual mix that works for you. But it's surrounding yourself with the right group to be able to work backwards from the vision you're trying to get to. What are the priorities around that, the basic priorities, and then really what are the tasks or initiatives to make those things happen. And I think the best leaders have a way of being able to articulate that in a way that ties it all together for their people. And then sometimes it's just staying out of their way and letting the right people do their job and do the right things to be able to contribute. So been very fortunate. I've worked with a lot of great leaders. I have learned as well some things not to do
Yeah.
some leaders that I've worked with, but in general, it is that idea of being able to articulate a vision and working backwards, and that the team and the people around you are able to not only one understand what you're trying to get to, but two being put in a position to be able to achieve that success.
Yeah, with your background, I'm not shocked that you went to the surrounding yourself and put up talking about team first, right? As spending some time in the front offices of Major League Baseball teams and so forth. So when you take a look at that, the composition of a team, the curation of a team is one thing, which is done by the general manager and so forth, with some input, I assume, from the manager and that type of thing. But when it really gets down to nuts and bolts, right, the winning component of it, it really relies on that manager out on the field to take the pieces and the team that he's given to then put it together and make it all work. What are some tricks to doing that? Because certainly you're going to have some all stars, you're going to have some role players, you're going to have all these type of different folks with different personalities and different skill sets and fit at the right time and all that stuff. That's not an easy thing to do, and it's not unlike the CEO of a growing, scaling company. So what do you see? How does that happen? How does that magic happen?
And first of all, I think it's a great question, and I think it's about finding your team identity.
Mm.
And there's not one identity that fits every team, but I do believe that every team has an identity that works for them. And in the sports arena, it might be: are we an offensive team? Are we a defensive team? Are we the kind of the well-rounded team? In the corporate world, what's our superpower? Do we want to have operational excellence? Do we want to have innovation excellence? Do we want to have customer service excellence? So at some point, you can't really do all those things at once. It's being able to come up with, what is the right fit for us? What's the right play, I guess, so to speak, for us to run to be able to achieve our goal, whatever it is. And different companies dominate their industries in very different ways. And companies have, I can, say that Tiffany's is kind of a customer service or customer experience company. That's their superpower. But then you look at something like Apple. They've been able to, for years and years and years, to have innovative excellence. They've been able to stack S curves of new products on in a way that works. So again, it's finding that identity that matches up with your vision, but then again, getting the right players that fill that identity to be able to allow you to do what you're trying to do.
I appreciate that. How, as the leader of a team like that, who has uh, different players who play different roles at different times, one of the keys has got to be the communication of really establishing that understanding of what role you're going to play,
Right.
right?
Yes, very much so. And sometimes it's hard because people don't necessarily want to or feel compelled to fill the role that might be best for the team or the organization as a whole.
Mhm,
And I think at the end of it, it's about getting people to understand that there needs to be an organizational benefit, but there also needs to be a personal benefit. I think
mhm,
one of the things we sometimes get lost is when we talk about leadership and you use the word leader, there's a difference between being a boss and a leader. As a
sure.
boss, I can just tell people what to do. I can formal authority, just do this. They might not like it. So they might go find
Yeah.
another place to do that. As a leader, it becomes you want people to follow you. You want people to come along for the ride. And I think a lot of that in getting people to accept their role is being able to kind of meet them where they are, kind of see the world as they see it, and then help build toward something that works not only for the individual but works for the collective as a whole. And sometimes it's not the right fit. It's not the right fit for the
Uh-huh.
individual. It's not the right fit for the organization. Sometimes those become difficult conversations as well. So it's not only molding what you're trying to do to the people that you have or the players that you have, but constantly making sure that you are communicating, as you said, with those players to be able, or the people on your team to be able to make sure that the journey that the group is trying to make still fits with the individual as well. Meeting them where they are and then seeing, okay, how do we make this journey together? And if the journey doesn't fit together, sometimes that leads to a different conversation. But it's
Yeah.
always about bouncing those two things off each other to make sure that they stay aligned as you go.
Well, yeah, I think those are all really good points. I think, and you talked about it of kind of defining who you're going to be, right? Is that another way of saying that is, what is your vision? What is of what you're trying to accomplish and how you're trying to accomplish and for whom you're trying to accomplish. And so that education component, when you start to build these teams out, and again, we're using teams, whether it's corporate or on the field,
Mhm.
when you start to build your teams out, being able to establish that vision that people can believe in has got to be, and so I guess number one is build a vision that people believe in and want to go after with you, but then they have to understand what their role is to do that for everybody to be successful.
Right, and I think that, again, it gets back to, making sure that you meet people where they are and being it's clear with your expectations, where they are in the cycle, what they might wanna do, and I can say having been, with multiple organizations, there are, front office people that their kind of goal was to earn a bigger role.
Yeah,
That's what they wanted to do, and sometimes I was, very fortunate that I had people that worked under me that were able to attain bigger roles, but that role happened to be elsewhere because
yeah,
we didn't have that particular role there. And I wished them luck, shook hands, have great friends that went on to do other things. And yes, we were competing against each other kind of because we stayed in the arena.
sure.
However, it was something that worked out for both people while they were here. Because if I have someone that I was a director and I have someone that had the upside to be a director, well, they're going to be awesome during the time that they're here before they get that opportunity on their own. So again, I think a lot of it is just making sure that you're, aligned with, again, the individual goals have to match up with the organizational goals. And the better that we can align those and the more consistently that we can align those, the greater the odds that we have of actually achieving whatever the outcome is that we're shooting for.
Yeah, I love that. I want to tie a couple things together. So earlier you said, there's a difference between being a leader and a boss.
Mhm.
And then you also talked about um, being able to help people achieve their dreams, right? Which may mean that it's not within your organization, but I believe that a role, and probably one of the most important roles of a leader, is to help everybody achieve their potential, and understanding that it may not, to your point, may not be within your organization. And the difference between a leader and a boss in that situation is a boss is going to get pissed, right? They're not going to do that necessarily,
Right.
because they're thinking about it from their standpoint of, I just need to get this stuff done, blah blah blah. Let's go do what I say. And oh no, you're leaving. That means you're bailing on me. You're not with me. Where a leader's like taking pride in saying, oh my gosh, I'm putting this person out in a way that they can be successful. So I don't know. Do you agree with that? Do you follow
I
along those lines? Yeah.
Yeah, I do, and I think at the end of it, I want people to be successful. I want to surround myself with successful people, and I never want to hold them back.
Hmm.
And sometimes, if you're the place, and at least particularly in my industry, in professional sports, for as long as I did it, it's very much a copycat industry. The easiest move is for a losing team to try and hire people off a winning team to trying to find that secret sauce. And
Yeah.
sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't, and we see that in the corporate world as well, where a VP of finance at a larger company might get a chance to be a CFO at a smaller company. You don't know if that's going to translate or not, but you take your chances. And I think, as a leader, if you do have that idea of trying to develop people, one of the things I've learned, and again, I spent 31 seasons in professional sports, but the last 5 years I've been doing, more consulting and coaching, and kind of more of a thought partner. Very fortunate at the kind of teach, coach, mentor stage of my career to be able to do that. And I found that sports as a whole is a fast-paced, high-stakes business. And
Hmm.
at its core, most business is competition, and it can get fast-paced and high stakes. So navigating those environments, as a leader, I'm very familiar with that, both in having been one myself, but also worked under some leaders that are literal Hall of Famers, at least in their industry. And what I found as a leader is that in general, we have four kind of hats that we can wear as a leader. And the first one we've already touched on, it is that boss hat, formal authority. I just dictate and give you the order because that's what we need to do in this particular moment to get things done.
Hmm.
So I can be the boss. I can also be a teacher. I can give you curriculum or give you information with no strings attached. I don't really tell you what to do. I just present the information to you and just kind of let you run with it. I can be a consultant where I come in and kind of tell you with my experience, or what my information or my experience might suggest, and then giving you some sort of directive, like this is what I would recommend that you do, some sort of recommendation action step, as a consultant role. And then there's just kind of the coach role where I meet you where you are and kind of give you the information. I'm the thought partner. We bounce things off each other. But ultimately, you need to go take the rep yourself. You need to go run the team. In baseball, I can talk to a hitter up until he's in the on deck circle. Once he walks to the plate, or if I'm coaching, a women's softball team, once she walks to the plate, they have to take the rep themselves. And what I found in the corporate world is it's very, very similar. If someone comes to me with an issue that they're trying to solve with their company, or in their situation, we can talk about it all we want. Once that conversation is done, they have to actually go take the rep. So that idea of, as a leader, is this time for me to be a boss? Is it time for me to be a teacher? Is it time for me to be a consultant? Or is it time for me to be a pure coach? And I
Hmm.
found that the best leaders over the course of time understand which hat to wear when. And if you
Hmm.
have the right people, and you're successful enough in putting people in positions to succeed, they'll actually come to you and almost tell you what hat they would like you to wear in any particular, situation. But, my goal has always been, I wanted to hire people that ultimately that were going to be able to, to replace me at some point. Because
Hmm.
if I make really good hires that are excellent at their role, they're going to make me look good as well. So I always found that that was a win-win situation, but you also have to have the right mindset coming into it to be humble enough, I guess, to turn it over to your people, to let them do what they do when they're good at it.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. I love that. Well, I mean, it goes back, right? If you have the mentality as a leader that you're going to grow and you're going to help people achieve their goals, right?
Mhm.
That's kind of what we're talking about. You're not just doing it with one level; you're doing it throughout the whole organization. And so when that person has that opportunity and it has to be outside of your organization, it's likely that you've already built a succession plan in place, and that next, you hear it in sports all the time, that next man up or that next person up is already there. So I think that's, if you can start to build that type of culture, and that type of leadership persona, it almost takes care of itself.
I think it does. And I think what you talk about, like with a pipeline of people, there are two types of leadership, like in general. I heard someone describe it one day, and I 100% agree with this. As a leader, you can either extract performance or unlock potential.
Mm,
So I can run the extract performance model. I can go, hey, here's what we do. We're going to measure you. These are the KPIs, and we're going to fire the bottom 10% performers every year and just throw them in the deep end and see if they swim. So you can extract performance or you can unlock potential. That's where you're taking the time to get with people trying. Now, the one thing is that I've found is that the extract performance is a lot quicker and it's a lot
sure.
more direct. And I know that there are companies that have very successfully run that model over and over again and been able to be successful. For me, the unlock potential one was always the one that I gravitated to. It is harder to create
Yeah.
that environment. However, one, it's more sustainable. And to your point too, it's kind of self-perpetuating. As you
Hmm.
lose people, hopefully you have people that are willing to step up again or step up. And what I found is that if you can do the unlock potential, what you will find is sometimes people will surprise you because when you unlock their potential, they may actually perform better than you thought they could
Yeah.
if you have the right people. So, again, there is no one right way to do this. There's no one right play to run. However, I do believe that every individual leader in every organization has a play that's right for them. It's about asking the right questions and then having the right conversations to make sure that you put the right systems in place to allow you to have the best chance to succeed.
Yeah. No, yes, I love all of that. Well, and frankly, depending on what's going on, you have to wear one of those four hats, right? Like it's hard, if the building's burning down, for example, it's hard to be a coach, right? That's when you need to be a boss and say, get the heck out of here, right? Like, I
Right.
mean, so you've got to be able. So as a leader, you have to have that flexibility to understand what's needed at that time, which means you've got to be listening, you've got to have a good command of your company, your vision, where your performance and where it stands right now, where you want to go, and all that kind of stuff, and then just what's happening on the day to day. So having that flexibility to pivot when you need to and wear and change hats, is pretty valuable.
No, I would 100% agree with that. I also think that the more time you when you do have the time, spend the effort and energy to be a coach or to be a consultant, it gives you credibility on those moments when you do need to be a boss. There are
Yes.
many times where I had to go, hey, I just need you to do this. I don't have time to explain it. I just need you to do this and I need you to do it by, now. And
Yeah.
and if you set the right environment, you don't have the, well, why do I need to do that? And why are they coming at me like that now? And what's the purpose of this? And when you if you do a good enough job spending time on both ends of the spectrum, when you do need to do that formal, when it comes time to just play the formal authority card because the circumstances dictate it,
Yep.
you are less likely to get resistance. You're less likely to get blowback. You're less likely to get questioning of what you're doing when, as long as you've earned the right as a leader to do that. And that idea of we all want to be thought partners. We talk about collaboration. We talk about
Uh-huh.
cohesiveness. We talk about alignment. You do need to be able at some point in time to just go, hey, this is what we're doing. And I don't have time to explain why.
Right.
But the idea of laying the groundwork to be able to uh, make those more of the off times rather than the default. Because if you just do it as barking orders, and you're just the boss, someone's likely to go find somewhere where they want somebody that they want to follow instead. They'll look for a leader. If you
Yeah.
if you're a boss for too long, they'll find a leader somewhere else.
I was going to use that exact phrase of, if your default is as the boss, that's not sustainable.
Right. Yeah, and people go elsewhere. Now that being said, when you have those pure extract performance, there are people that want to get into those environments mostly for selfish reasons. They want to
Mm,
run their own shop or they want to get their own thing or they want to make the big bonus. So again, it's not that those arenas don't have value or don't exist or can't be successful, but it's understanding what you're doing and why.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. All right. We need to start to wrap this up. Let me ask you this last question.
Mhm.
If you think back to 20-year-old Joe, what is one thing that you wish he would have known at that point that you know now?
Great question. And I would say understanding the relationship between people and process.
Yeah.
And I will say this as a recovering processaholic. In the early part of my career, it was all about tweaking the system and trying to squeeze the extra 2%. And what's the extra page in the operating manual? It's going to make us more efficient. And I was very process oriented. What I came to realize was that, in that dynamic of people and process, people are actually the more important part of the equation, and the reason for that is that people dictate process, not the other way around.
Uh-huh.
And the kind of analogy I'll often use is if I take a poor process and I surround it with great people will not stand for a poor process. And if you give them enough time, they will make it a great process.
Yep.
The flip side of that is if I take a great process and I surround it with poor people, if I give them enough time, they will make it a poor process. They will peck away at it and chip away at it until it becomes a poor process. So for me, I wish I understood the value of the right people first. And the sports analogy is okay, I can have a great playbook, but if I don't have the right players to run the play, it kind of doesn't matter. The
Yep.
better way to lead or build a team is to get the right players and then build the playbook that matches them because they'll run the right plays. They'll do
Yeah.
the right things when you put them in that moment. And I think it applies in the corporate world as well. So I think my number one lesson was if I could go back, it would be understanding the people end of it first, which is the harder thing to learn as a leader and as a manager. But it took me too long in my career to understand that the people of that people and process dynamic, the people were the most important part to get right. Because if you get the people right, the process almost takes care of itself.
Yeah, I love that. That is amazing. Joe, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing a bunch of your wisdom. This has been a blast.
Well, I greatly appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the listeners who stuck around till the end, and I hope that they got something out of it.
Yeah. Hey, real quickly, how can people find you? What does an engagement look like with you at this
Sure.
point?
So I'm on LinkedIn. Anyone can look there. I also this past summer wrote a book called Winning Inc. It's a championship handbook for high performing leaders. It's kind of story based. It's 9 principles and then a chapter kind of tying them all together about some of the lessons that I've learned and how they apply in any high performing environment. So people can reach out on LinkedIn. I'm on X as well, under my name. And then, as I said, I do have a book that you can go to Amazon. You can read a kind of a sample of it. It'll give you a feel for kind of what it's about and what the principles are that kind of came to me. And we touched on a couple of them today, but usually what I'll do is if someone's looking to try and achieve their next level, whatever that looks like, I'm very familiar with navigating high stakes environments to trying to achieve whatever the next achievement is. Baseball kind of works that way. You go from A ball to
Yeah.
double A to triple A to the major leagues. And what I've found is that that's the way it is in most high performing environments. You're trying to reach your next level of scale. You're trying to go from director to vice president to C suite. You're trying to get from $10 million in revenue to $50 million in revenue, whatever that looks like. And there are some universal qualities in those environments that apply. And I feel very, very fortunate that I've been able to be in more winning situations than losing situations during the course of my career. And have really enjoyed this phase of trying to have conversations to help other people achieve their goals as well.
Awesome. Great, man. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. I really, again, appreciate the invite and hope the listeners got something out of it.
Yep. Well, folks, we've done it again. Found some more leadership nuggets for you. Really appreciative of Joe joining us. As we sign off, remember that Igniting the CEO Within is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has created Launchpad, which provides an opportunity for executive coaches to become licensed circle directors and earn annual recurring six-figure revenues. To find out more, visit quaidcircle.com. Until next time, keep igniting that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge. Thanks for listening.